Hello, hello, everyone. It's Lydia.
Hi, it's Marcus. How's everybody?
Yeah, yeah, we're here to discuss Mary Emanuel. Is it Mary Emanuel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mar, Mar, Mary, Mary, Emmanuel.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister, isn't it?
I think
Mary.
so. But also,
Yeah.
it's so funny because um, I got so usually I
Mm.
have my stuff be read by Snoop Dogg. And
You're gonna have to pause and explain. That
so
was left
this is
field there.
I know, right? It's unexpected. So, and Snoop Dogg was butchering the name so hard, and it is a represented. So, what I do is when I write things or when I read articles about things that I'm interested in,
Mm.
I put it with like I use an app to read it for me because I am a visual reader and a listener at the same time. So I usually make it fun and put Snoop Dogg's
Oh,
voice to it.
that
Maybe
is
you
fun.
So Snoop Dogg was butchering the name so much, and it's interesting. It is a representation of how complex the topic is.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's actually crazy? I had seen a lot of videos of him previously and kind of didn't think too much of it. And then like last month someone mentioned him to me. And that's when I was like, "Oh, it's this guy." Cuz I always knew he was kind of right winger. And he kind of seemed like a little bit odd to me. I don't know. I got bad vibes from him. And then this happened. But anyways, maybe we should start with the background of who this person is. Maybe we should start with the situation, just to
Um,
honor what happened.
yeah, there's a lot of intros though.
A lot.
Maybe,
It is.
but actually, I'm curious, folks. Today we're talking about
Mm,
somebody whose name is Marmari Emmanuel,
mhm.
who call himself a bishop in an Assyrian community in Australia, who sadly, in a horrific attack, got
Yeah.
stabbed by what New South Wales police in Australia says a 15 or 16-year-old person
Wow. They were a
inside the
minor?
church. So again, I'm not sure if like the first
Uh,
first news stuff they said that person was 15 years old, and then another sources would say 16 years old.
oh,
Um,
wow.
and many people like the
Mm,
reactions have been so
mm,
heavy. But in our communities, honestly, I like to look at the backstories because
mm,
the news will talk about things and sensationalists will come and talk about certain
mm.
things. And I like to think of the backstories behind the attack, or not necessarily the attacker, or yeah. So we're here to think out loud and to give more insights about Assyrians, like
Hmm.
Copts, in diaspora, I think.
Yeah, it's a very nuanced situation. A lot of things, layers on layers, and I think people's responses to it have been really interesting too. I even saw one white person on my Facebook who was like, "This bishop is better than any pastor in the United States." So she's Protestant and was like, "He, I'd take him over any of these religious leaders in the United States in the Protestant church." So it was really interesting because I don't think she under like she read it as a like this man. I don't know, but like is he like was standing up for something, um, and really interesting because she's also a Zionist and his statements, um, his recent statements on Gaza, she wouldn't agree with. So it's just interesting how people can take something and just run with it. So that's why I really appreciated reading your article because I think it broke down the situation a lot more nuanced than just someone's personal. This is what I want to make of the situation.
Yes, and actually, this is what stark and made me like, oh, there are so many things that people are missing out that needs to
Yeah.
be talked about. It's not mentioned in the news. It's not mentioned. It's not understood by many people who are sharing the news about that stabbing incident or about this
Yeah.
person. Um, and it happened that I have been following him
Mm.
since even before the pandemic. He
Oh,
got
wow.
really known in the pandemic because of his
Right.
videos against the vaccines, against COVID, but mainly the videos were out of the frustrations of heavy lockdowns in
Mm.
Australia, which many
Mm.
people, it's not just people on one side were
Mm.
annoyed from, or some people on the right calls it draconian lockdowns, and but it frustrated actually so many people. It was one of the harshest lockdowns around the
Mm.
world. Especially also many people in Australia really depend on, they are
Mm.
isolated and they move a lot out of their island.
Mm.
So they weren't able to get in and out,
Mm.
which was so challenging. I'm not giving him excuses though, because I think leaders of communities they need to be held accountable and challenged. And
Mhm.
so yeah, so I started following him because I'm a healthcare professional and working with newcomers and
Interesting.
immigrants around COVID and the vaccines, and how misinformation are spread around
Yeah.
the vaccines and our.
So, why were you following him pre-pandemic? Just out of interest or
So he's not only out of interest, because also we know I'm interested and I research hate and misinformation groups before the pandemic, and this is one of the things that I, as a professional working with newcomers and immigrants, we see spread, like the research shows that misinformation target racialized communities many folds than white folks. So I give attention to that, and I see it happening in our
mm,
communities. So, and he started to become a social media persona, but also because I really know our clergy. I grew up in the church. I grew up in the church, and I like heavily immersed, and I know, I would say, most of our clergy in Egypt and in diaspora, and his face was not familiar, and especially wearing el qolonsoa, or the Syriac head covering. So he looked like,
mm,
oh, is that person Egyptian? I don't think so, because also he's older. He doesn't have an Egyptian accent. So
mhm,
I dug deeper behind him and got to know his story um, way before even the pandemic.
mm. I really appreciated your article on the situation to, or what happened too, because I felt like you also had a lot of citations, a lot of like obviously background knowledge into what had happened. Um, I also think like this is really fascinating because the person who introduced me to him also said that many people think he's Coptic, and the context to which I found him was on like a Coptic TikTok, sharing, you know, his yeah, his content, which I'm just not a fan. I'm just telling you right now, I'm not a fan of Coptic clergy people preaching love. This is like I just don't want to see it on my social media because I feel like it should be, and I really appreciate how you concluded this article because I feel like I don't appreciate when priests are putting out a rhetoric on social media about love, peace, and charity, and we know how problematic some churches can be and some clergy members can be. And I also think that there is a criticism to developing a cult around your identity as a priest around a podcast or around social media. and so that was kind of what first alerted me to this person, because I was very, it was just off putting that he had a very strong social media presence and that he really wanted a strong social media presence. And even if like the content was like, I would agree with the content, I don't agree with the methodology of using social media as a cult around yourself as a priest and someone who's supposed to be dedicating their time to the community and to the people and putting that into practice. So, yes, I really appreciated that part of your article too, is bringing it all back to the point of yeah, what is priesthood and what is like the transition in the conversation that we've had, because obviously a lot of people would also say, you mentioned the ortho bros, would also say like this person's not a bishop and blah 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 because he's been defrocked and blah blah blah. But I think that you're bringing in a much more nuanced conversation too into that field and saying, well, let's examine other things too. So I really
Yeah.
like this article, in other words.
Thank you, Lydia. So, couple of things I want to reflect on, and
Yeah.
it's very actually insightful because it wasn't one of my intentions from the article to
Mm,
talk about or point out what priesthood should be. It's
mm, mm,
interesting
mm,
that this is a feedback, and we are
mm,
actually, as you can, if you are listening to us or watching us,
mm,
this is a like I didn't talk to Lydia before, so I sent Lydia the article, and so this is an honest reflection, and
mm,
I'm surprised, and I like that surprise as well, because
mm,
and so we're gonna leave the link for the article in the captions, and
mm,
you can read it for yourself. So, but it's interesting that reflection because my
mm,
intention wasn't
mm,
necessarily about talking about what priesthood should be. I think I'm not a theologian. I think honestly, I used to be a theologian. Used to be an ortho bro,
mm,
and a trained one too, not just a regular
mm,
reader.
mm,
But the thing is, but now I'm a community worker. I work at a, um, a very well established community health center, and I learned how to be a regulated community health worker. And I think actually we like inside our churches, we need to learn from community organizations that serves everybody, not just religious community. And if our clergy learned about many of the policies that we learn in our community work, and you know that, of course, because you work in the community and you work with community partners, I think actually our community service would be very way more. It would be way more ethical. Would be more efficient. It would be more, I, I think, Christian.
mm,
So yeah. So this is one side about um, like how community work could be done in our community, and the leader or priests as community workers, not just religious leaders. I hope at some point that this would happen, or I introduce this to my friends. Many of them are clergy in our communities, but actually
mm,
I don't have a problem for a priest to be a celebrity on social media. I think actually, and in the article, yeah,
mm,
because some of
mm,
my friends who are clergy, they are social media
mm,
celebrities, and I don't think there is a. I think this is a medium that, and actually, this is what I talked about in the article of Marmari
mm,
is using. Um, you would know in the article, by the way, that I am not calling this person a bishop because he's not, which is the surprise. You can get the details about this in the article. He used to be though, but he's not anymore. Which is also for me a part about misinformation, but we can come back to it. And for the social media, and actually, this is the poster and the article and the image that I used. It was like a generated. It's a ChatGPT generated photo that represents that it's the ceiling. So a Bible, a breacher, a breacher Bible. There is no breacher there, and there is a the stained glasses coming like it's social media logos, and the light comes through the stained glasses with the social media brands. So how I think I don't have a problem using social media and making and priests or pastors, sermonizers use social media as a medium to create a community, and this is what Murmury did. Uh, and honestly, also, I do not have a problem with somebody who would do and be an independent and create another independent from his church and create another community. I'm not a church entity or a holy synod to say that you can't do that. Apparently, actually, hundreds of people supported him, and he was able to fund his ministry and still be independent since 2013 or 2014. It's 2013, 2014. So since he was able to launch a big church and many followers in person and online. I think the issue is like with that big following, are we using what kind of language or messaging that we are giving to our followers? Are we giving followers hateful message and accurate message or not? Because in the article you would see that I think, and many think that Marmari use lots of he perpetuates lots of misinformation, conspiracy theories, and when you mix this with religion, and you are standing on a pulpit, and many followers are listening to you and taking your sermon, your every word as godly. So you need to be responsible and be held responsible for these words. You can't spread misinformation. The third part that I want to reflect on, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, Lydia, priests talking about love. And we know that unfortunately many priests would say, like Marmari would say in the article, who would say, I love Muslims, but you know what? When you go to heaven, you will never see Muhammad there. Even if your Christianity believe this, even you can say that. But the problem is, how can you love a person, or you say that I love you, but your prophet is not going to heaven? That means that you're not going to heaven, and all your work in this life is going to waste. For example, if this person is a believer, this is a way to bring people to your religion? Is that love? I don't think that Jesus can talk to somebody like this, or need to talk to somebody like this to bring them, to convert them. This is a right-wing American evangelical apologetic way. We, as Egyptians or Eastern Christians, we didn't know this way of like we need to convert people or evangelize. We're not evangelists. Yes, in the scripture, in the Bible, there are many words and many invitations about go preach to the whole world. Our indigenous Egyptian way of evangelism is not the American right-wing evangelism and converting people. So this is a totally different. By attacking people, I am converting them. It involves lots of humiliation, dehumanization, and spiritual manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the issue. And you can't say that with use of love. And we perpetuate this as Christian. Many Christian sermonizers and preachers would say, I love everybody, and we Christians, we don't carry swords. Other religions carry swords. Wink, wink, hint, hint, hint. I mean Islam, but I'm nice. I'm not saying this. I'm nice. And then you this is hate. You keep talking about the word love, but it is hateful message.
Mm-hmm.
This is what needs to stop.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really be. What you are doing also is it's Christian supremacy. You're supremizing your religion. You're supremizing your. Yeah, you can't supremize it with you. You can be proud of your religion, your faith,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't need to practice supremacy over others because it is hate.
You heard my pencil go?
Sorry,
Yes.
I
No,
keep
I loved
ranting,
it.
but
I loved it. Yeah, I think we should have probably prefaced by saying, like, the goal of this is not to criticize somebody who has been harmed, physically harmed. But I my interest in the topic, and Marcus's obviously, is to bring this into a conversation that's about the interactions with this story and what it says about our communities. So we should have probably started with that, but I
But
wanted to bring it
you know what, Lydia? I actually don't think that we need to be afraid of like,
to.
you know what, when people point fingers at you. Oh, so are you like legitimizing the attack of that bishop by that? No, I'm actually avoiding to talk about the attack.
Mm,
I'm not. You know what? If you want to talk about the attack itself,
mm,
there are so many outlets that you can go find for yourself if you want to really know the details about the person and stuff like that, and the details about what happened. Go listen to it. But
mm,
I myself, and especially in this article, I am using this moment of heat
mm,
and questions to talk about important issues in our communities.
mm. Something else that you pointed out in the article that I thought was interesting was the picture of El Baba Carlos in the background, which was the first thing that I noticed as well. And I think what alerted a lot of Coptic community members to then feel like this was a Coptic, like an attack against the Coptic community. Um, yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that?
It is super interesting because maybe I haven't talked about this in the article, but now it's a good opportunity to get into more details about this person. So this person has been defrocked, chalah,
Mm.
from the
Is that the legal term? Itchala?
yeah, in Egypt
Really?
and in the Coptic
Oh.
Church, canonically, in the
Oh.
Coptic Church in Arabic, chalah. So, and I think actually it's connected with Arabic with chalah, like really literally removed his garment
Mm,
or
mm,
his garb. So chalah, like you're taking off your clothes, and which is the most important thing. How is this? So
mm,
I don't want to get into much details about uh, the churches and how complex the churches, the Christians of the Middle East. But I can give you a glimpse of, like us Copts, many people don't know that there are Catholic Copts, Coptic Catholics, there are evangelical Copts, and there are actually Greek Orthodox Copts, and many others Copts. Many folks think that Copts are only Orthodox, which is not true. With Assyrians, another a minority ethnic group in the Middle East, they are really interconnected with Syriacs. I don't want to get into
mhm,
details about this, but with Assyrians, they are separated or they are divided
mm,
between the Syriac Orthodox Church, which is another Oriental Orthodox Church that is, we call it a sibling or a sister church, and then the um, the Assyrian Catholic Church and the Assyrian Church of the East, which is an independent church from like many years, by itself. Some people like to call that it was a division out of the Assyrian Catholic Church, but actually many folks, many Assyrians like to call the ancient Assyrian Church of the East is an Assyrian church. It did not belong to the Orthodox or the Catholic Church
Mm,
from the get-go.
mm,
Many of the issues around this is around Nestorius.
mhm,
I don't want to also get into many details theologically, but Assyrians who are not Orthodox or Catholic, they consider Nestor is as a saint, and they do not believe that, which is a theological debate that happened hundreds of years ago. I
mm,
don't want to also get into councils
mm.
and stuff like that.
We
That
love it.
says
We
yes,
gotta.
no, I'm not going to do it. Like you can find this somewhere else
Mm,
a lot, not,
mm,
but many hundred years, like they didn't understand themselves, and Nestorians or Assyrians or not Catholics or Orthodox, they don't believe that Mary is the mother of God. So put that to the side, and actually thinking about this made the tension. Why I'm talking about all of that? Because this is how Assyrian Christians are. There are a lot of hate against Assyrians from
mm,
Orthodox and Catholics because of these dogmatic theological
mhm,
misunderstandings. We have, for example, Ambabshoy of Damietta, the late one. He was vicious. Of course, he would go to he was the representative of the Coptic Orthodox Church. He monopolized the representation of the Coptic Orthodox Church in ecumenical discussions, while he doesn't hold any theological
mm.
degree or training, but he monopolized
Wow.
it. Yeah, monopolized it for many years, and he was viciously attacking the Assyrian
Mm,
ancient church of the East because he
mm,
discovered. He
mm,
thought that he discovered, and he's the only one who doesn't know. Or he was like, "Oh, I need to tell everybody that the Assyrian Church of the East is Nestorian." Oh, so does this mean that you need to spread hate against
mm,
an ethnic church that has hundreds of years of history?
mhm,
That's another layer. Even
mm,
us Christians,
mhm,
we want to supremize on each other, which is a
mhm,
problem in itself. I'm challenging this because also in the article I mentioned how Ortho which is the folks that are called themselves militant
mm,
orthodoxy folks or orthodox or death folks, they were vicious, attacking this person and really disregarding the that he was stabbed and he was attacked. Interestingly, they were divided because some people were really their priority was attacking Islam. So the same Ortho bros, their priority was to attack Islam. So they and avoided to talk about the Nestorianism of this person, and said they focused on attacking Islam, and they assumed right away that he is a fanatic Muslim attacking Christian. So interesting intricacies, and you would find a lot of hate, a lot of misunderstanding. And what are our priorities here? We are
mm,
ethnic groups of the Middle East. We have a choice, especially in diaspora, to bond together and not like most parishioners in the in churches, Middle Eastern churches in diaspora and in the homeland, they don't know or understand. It's not their priority.
mm,
All these theological elite debates. They are pious people, like to bond with their other parishioners and to celebrate, whether inside the church or outside of it. So it's so harming to really spread hate within ourselves as minorities of the Middle East, not just Christians, but also against Muslim siblings because
Mm,
of theological and dogmatic difference.
mm. Why do you think we get so in the weeds about theology too, to the point of being super problematic with each other?
I
Do you
think it's
think that's just human nature? Like we got to pick on something, or like can you find this in other religions, or is this?
oh yeah,
I don't know. It's troubling.
I think it's easier, Lydia, to listen to each other. Sorry,
Mm.
it's easier. It's easier to attack each other. Sorry,
Yes.
it's
Okay.
so hard to listen to each other. It's so hard
Mm,
not to feel that we are like a group of us are supreme,
mm,
or the group that we belong to is supreme
right.
to
Right.
the other group.
Mm,
And throughout history, as oppressed people, especially us, we didn't govern ourselves.
mm,
We have been oppressed by whoever colonizer that come, not just
mm,
Muslims or Arabs.
mm,
Since
mm,
I don't know, since the Nubians, we have
mm,
been we have been colonized by the Nubians, the Romans, the
mm,
Persians, all these people, and so it's and we didn't have the chance or the privilege to. So it is a privilege to
mm,
not to be afraid from an outsider or somebody
mm,
who's new to you. With oppression, you learn how to stick together and be afraid and be fearful from anything
mm,
that you call a new idea. Um, so it's hard to listen in. And I think this is how actually I criticize folks who are living in diaspora with different dynamics from the homeland. You're not under all these oppressions anymore. And I think what's happening with fear mongering coming from the right and targeting our communities, the right one, while you have a lot of privileges in diaspora compared to homeland. I have lived in the homeland and I know the difference. Um, the people who spread hate, whether the left or the right.
mhm,
But unfortunately, the right target us way more because they know our faith and our
mm,
conservatism. So they target us more and they instill and spread hate and misinformation in us,
mm,
which is sad because parents' generation moved here to give first generation or their kids an
mm,
opportunity for better education, for an education or space with way less hate and way less misinformation.
mm,
But what happened is misinformation and hate are spread and we consume it in our community and we don't listen, which is sad. So I think we need
mm.
to challenge and talk about this.
You actually reminded me. Someone DM'd me about a priest saying here in Nashville about a protest. It's called um, "Hands Off Our Kids," or it's some right wing anti queer rally that was happening that one of the priests mentioned on Sunday, and then it started circulating on Facebook for community members to go to. And my first reaction to this was the graphics were bad, so I knew it was like some boomer who had done the graphics for this. But um, there have been multiple protests for Palestine in Nashville, and very few Coptic community members coming out to support the Palestinian community members, Muslim and Christian. So that was the first thing that struck me was like all the energy that went into saying to go to this protest that's probably not well planned um, on a topic that really is not relevant to the Tennessee state legislature in terms of like they just passed a bill to arm teachers. And you have these people who are like, we don't want any. Um, I
To
don't
arm
even know what they want
teachers
really.
with,
Guns.
to arm them. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
like very extreme. And there have been protests
Yeah.
for yeah, very extreme legislation. Um, and they also passed legislation to formalize cooperation between ICE, the federal agents, and local police, which has already been happening, but to formalize it is kind of overkill. So anyway, so it just was very interesting to me when you were saying that like the right wing can easily get into our communities, um, even against our own interests and even against our own like sensibilities of what we should prioritize for ourselves and our children. That just fascinated me, and also the lack of solidarity with other communities that are not white. So,
Thank you for reflecting on this. And I think the misinformation around queer and trans issues and sex education, actually, this is what got me to get training as a sex educator. I wanted to.
mm.
I just finished actually the certification.
Nice,
So
nice.
because I was deeply like interested to know, oh,
Mm,
like I have researched it because I have written an article about it before.
mhm,
Of like why really our communities are against sex
mm,
education, or why do they do alternative sex education curriculums. We see it happening in different churches in the U.S. and Canada,
mm,
and and it is, and our community is very passionate about protecting the kids.
mm,
The thing is, the same people who organize these rallies
mm,
or target us was like, oh my God, you are people of faith.
mm,
And we all want you came from your countries, and these bad people are not protecting your kids, so come with us, join us. And the same people who are organizing these rallies, they are not going to protect the rights
mhm.
of the rest of your family if you want to do a
Right,
reunification. If your
right.
family is oppressed in Egypt or a different part of the world and want to claim asylum in the US or Canada, they are not going to
Mhm.
support this. They call our
Right.
asylum seekers and refugees, which actually many of them are Copts. Um, they call them alien. They call them
Mhm,
illegals. They call them whatever. So the same people, and we need to get reminded of this. That's
mm,
why we need to challenge misinformation in our community, because sex education is not hurting our kids. We know that yes, I can see how Coptic families can be challenged with content around gender diversity, and especially to transition somebody and the parents. I myself got education in Egypt and I got nothing, and I'm a trained pharmacist. In my education, school education, I got nothing about sex education, and I got
mm,
quality education or one of the best educations in Egypt.
mm,
So imagine if folks
mm,
who moved to the US and Canada who got nothing in education about sex education,
mhm,
and then they got hit by, oh, gender diversity and talking about orientation, um, without cultural appropriate take to it.
mhm,
And even these topics are not main topics in sex education. I studied
mm,
it.
mhm,
These are not everything about it. It's actually a very minimal part of the sex education, and actually
mm,
many folks don't talk about it.
mm,
And we don't need to focus. But what happened is, and this is what's misinformation. These people who organize these rallies, they take photos of
mhm, mhm,
random schools with pride flags or random flyers, and they misinterpret it.
mm,
Yes, there are talk about pride flags and gender diversity and orientation in schools, but this is not everything or most of the things. It's a tiny thing. It's like one of the classes of the hundreds of classes that your kids take at school. What misinformation does is they really make it the biggest. They really play on your emotions. They play on your faith issues.
mm,
And then they manipulate it for their gain. And honestly, we have been oppressed and manipulated in the motherland.
mm,
And it shouldn't happen when we move here, when we
mm,
have a lot more privileges.
mm, mm. Yeah, you would think. You'd think. This has been a very interesting ride going from this article and landing here.
It's all
Congratulations on
connected.
finishing the program. That's so exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we got to do an episode on that.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love talking about sexual health, and I think it is important, and our community really need it.
Mm,
And um, it could be like
mm,
um, it could be curated to whatever age and whatever people understanding or capacity. We don't need to poke people, and like
mhm,
educators know how to, like trained educators know how to um, push the limit a little bit, but not too
mm,
much.
mm,
Social media influencers, they don't know that. And
mm.
that's the difference between when you get your information from a
Mm.
TikTok bishop, which is
Yeah,
the
there you
title
go.
of the
There we
article,
go.
or you get it from like a quality education from a school, public school,
Mhm,
from a university.
mm,
Um, and yeah, I got like for this article, for example,
mm,
I get so frustrated from
mm,
editors,
mm.
especially when they are academics. I'm a frontliner. I want to get stuff done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
hear the urge of
Yeah.
folks who get
Mm,
frustrated
mm,
of like I want to get quick information from TikTok. Let's get it to me. While
mm,
I like social media, I'm a social media manager and stuff like that. But uh, you gotta combine this with quality education,
mhm,
and if you get quality education about anything, including sexual health and the dynamics of churches in the Middle East without supremacy of like, oh, I'm going to talk to you about the Assyrian ancient church of the East, but be careful, they are Nestorians. Come on. We can
mm,
put everything, all the information, and really, if we are quality educators, if we are trained educators, we know that putting the information
mm,
to our audience or our students are not gonna make them they are it's gonna inform them, it's gonna make them better humans. um, we don't need to keep being afraid about access to more
mhm,
information. This is very oppressive. Maybe that's a
mhm,
motherland idea.
mm.
اللي يعرف أكتر يتعب أكتر. But no, we have way more
That's
privilege here.
true, though.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I support
Yeah.
that statement. Uh, as a gossip. Uh,
You gotta have your therapist though, so
yeah, 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 yeah. We'll
to
get there
help
one
you
day. We'll get there.
with knowing it too much, or actually a seasoned father of confession combined with a therapist. It would be beautiful. Yeah.
That would be wild. That would be wild.
Oh, I know. I was blessed. Was I keep talking about how I was blessed to have a seasoned
Mm,
father of confession. When
mm.
I was like my mind was getting
Oh,
like too ascetic or too like beating myself up or something. I would my father of confession would tell me like, oh, Habibi, like take care of yourself. It's okay to sleep. It's okay to eat well. It's okay to eat a lot while you are growing
wow.
up.
Mm,
Stuff like that. So combine seasoned father of confession with therapy. Why not? Some folks actually, and this is part of the misinformation. Some folks
mm,
think that, oh, therapists are bad. You need to pick a
mm,
Christian therapist. No, like therapists don't
mm,
tell you don't go to your father of confession or be a
mm, mm,
an atheist, or you can be if you want. It's fine, but they are not gonna encourage you or take you
mm,
out of the religion. No,
mm. Yeah.
even ethical
Mm,
Christian counselors,
mm,
they are not gonna affirm your faith. Like they are
mhm,
not gonna tell you, oh, you should go to church. It's better. No,
mm,
this is actually against the
mm.
conduct of Christian councils too.
That's another episode too.
Yalla. Okay.
Talk about therapy. I think we'll round this one out, and y'all can give us some comments and feedback on this, and we'll attach Marcus's article so you can read it in full. And Yeah, tell us how spicy it is. Yeah. And we'll see y'all on another episode of What's Up, Cops.
Thank you, Lydia, for hosting me.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcus, for writing this wonderful article.
All
I
right.
really love it.